In hardcore Minecraft, one small mistake and everything you have worked for is gone. Half-hearted hardcore is a challenge where instead of 10 hearts, you only have half a heart. Over the past year, I played over 1,200 hours in this world and survived more than 5,000 in-game days. There have been a lot of scary and near-death moments, but so far I have overcome all of those. Let me take you on a full tour of everything I have built and achieved. The first thing I would like to show you is the most recent project I got done. This is the battlefield. It is all about the battle between the Cyan Citadel and the Birch Bastion. The Cyan versus Birch have been an ongoing theme in my streams for the longest time, and here both sides got their base. 9-3 is the leader of the Birch side, sitting on his Birch throne, and Dan is the leader of the Cyan side. They are both ruling over their armies between the castles, and using channel points, Twitch viewers can get warriors on the battlefield here, customizing them with upgrading armor, custom weapons, and even battle pets. Those pets include every cat variant, which I got set up to breed up here in the Birch Bastion's main tower. There's dogs and even both fox variants. There's also siege engines and towers all around the area, and all those outposts are belonging to viewers as well, also claimed with channel points. For example, we got Dead Fox here manning his potion flinging trebuchet, or Bunny casting a spell on the battlefield, and Sam looking over the airline's outpost, and many more. If you want to make your mark on this world, then all you need to do is just hang out on Twitch, because opportunities to put yourself into this world come up all the time. There's a few more small things I might add to this area in the future, but for the most part I consider this complete. Next up I'll show you what I have in my end dimension. On the main island I don't have much going on other than the decoration around the platform here. But off in the distance over the void here is my hostile mob zoo. Here I got all hostile mobs other than an Evoker, Vexes and an Elder Guardian, because I have one captured somewhere else. No Wither here because I didn't want to risk having a Wither cage here. But there's 29 different hostile mob cages, including the Warden above the center here and the Ghast right below it. I'm really proud of bringing all these mobs here, and I was close to losing the world many times, but seeing all this complete makes me feel like the risk was worth it. My favorite enclosure here is the one with all the baby zombie variants, and I call this the kindergarten group. There's also a ton of Halloween mobs here with the jack-o'-lantern heads and the carved pumpkin heads. Most dangerous mob to get here was obviously the Warden, but what I struggled with the most was probably the slime. Over to the side here is my current work in progress, which is the ultimate villager trading hall. I designed an automated breeding and curing setup here, and once I assign them traits, they go to the vending machine. This is a bit much to explain in one video, but basically you just check in the lectern here which villager you want to trade with, and then on the arrow up top here you select the number of the villager. And then you just hit the button and the villager goes to me so I can trade with him. Once I'm done I can just send him back and he goes exactly back to where he came from. There will also be this mass trading setup, which is not finished yet, where the villagers cycle through from the top to bottom, so I can trade with as many of them as fast as possible. Once they're at the bottom and I traded with them, they go back up to the top to restart the cycle. Next I want to show you my Guardian farm. I used Nembon's concept from his 117 Fun Farms video to make my own version. Landing at the staircase I can walk down into the perimeter, which I decorated by making this mosaic pattern. This whole floor is just improvised. I used 4 different block pallets and tiled symmetrical shapes together until the whole floor was covered. And this farm is insanely fast. They spawn up top, go to the nether where they get pre-damaged so they're one shot, and then come back through to the overworld down below. Here I have an auto potion brewer which supplies me with potions to kill them. And by switching to my sword while I throw the potion I can even use the looting effect. This is also by far my best XP farm, so I use this thing all the time. And all the items go over here, and that's where they get sorted out with those double speed filters. Right in the shore next to the Guardian farm is where I built my Pillager Tinder. It's my bad omen farm where you save up pillagers with banners, and the ones without banners die in 5 random ways in the background. And if I have a need bad omen I can just punch the one in the floor here and they just keep restocking. It is so much fun to use. I usually save up way more bad omen pillagers than I need. If you would like to know more about all the redstone here, I have a video about how I improved from version 1 to this current version. Right outside the Pillager Tinder there is a hill where I built a bunch of monuments. Like this one for example for my friends Dame, Dana and Lime Cookie. Right behind it here is the big half-heart pixel art that I built to celebrate 4,000 days in this world. And around the base of this monument there's a bunch of signs with all the names of the people that were here live when I hit 4,000 days. Going through the portal back up here at the Pillager Tinder, I end up at this piston bolt tunnel. This leads straight to my raid arcade game. When I come here with Bad Omen, a raid automatically starts and all the raiders spawn all the way back there on the green. They make their way towards me, and with each step they go down, there's another trap I can trigger. For example, there is potions at the top, there is launching them in the air for fall damage, there's lava and even fireworks. I also shoot them with my bow provided they don't dodge. With the last World Tour video, a lot of people were interested in this, so if you'd like to see me make a standalone video and going more in depth about how all of this works, let me know in the comments. Right next to this in the ocean is a few more raid farms, but I barely use any of them. Here's the first one I ever built, and the lack of planning made for the first ever successful raid, but also cost me my first ever totem.
Okay, nope.
This was very unsafe, and I quickly built ENX04 stacking raid from right here next to it. After using that for a bit, I felt that it was too overpowered by the amount of drops it gives you. It's a great farm though, so I would definitely recommend this to anybody who wants to build a stacking raid farm. And since stacking raid farms are a little bit scary with all those raids going on, just for safety I added this instant repeater line going all the way up to an Ender Pearl stasis chamber. This way I was always ready to get out instantly in case anything went wrong, which never really was the case anyways. The last one and the only one I still use sometimes is this one, which is also just improvised here in hardcore. But with the experience of the first one, this one's pretty safe and it works pretty well. Going further this way, I end up at my base island. A lot of the stuff I built here is underground, so let me show you the stuff on the surface first. Starting on the far side there's the windmill with the wheat field. The idea here was to have farmers harvest the field and the Alays pick up the wheat. During the last World Tour, the Alays were missing, and a few weeks ago I found them a few hundred blocks this way. I also did interior decoration here, and I don't only mean all those signs. I mean the millstones and all the other details. Also there's Droopy here, wearing those colors proudly. Next to the windmill is a blacksmith house. Here is 12 toolsmiths and 4 armorsmiths. The purpose of this is to be able to sell iron for emeralds. All the workstations are tied into the build here, and I really like the aesthetics of this place. If I continue up the path here, walking past Diceman, I end up at the current villager area. Here I just have a few basic trades set up and an iron farm with 4 pots in the background. With all the drops getting loaded into shulkers and put here in the chest. There's also this very basic villager breeder next to it. And right over here is where I started building a zoo with some turtles. There's the Strider who we got the feels like home advancement with. And even a bunch of brown pandas here next to it. Going further towards the entrance of the base, there's this greenhouse, which houses my bamboo farm. This fuels my furnacery, which we'll get back to later. It uses Borkon's reliable harvester. That is basically a flying machine that fixes itself after it inevitably breaks when getting unloaded. All the bamboo gets loaded into shulkers and then gets delivered to the furnace array. You might also have noticed I have beacon effects everywhere, but you can't see the beams. I use a mod called Sodium Extra to make beams invisible, because I think beacon beams look terrible most of the time. I have this entire base covered in beacon effects and also lit up all the caves, so no matter where I go, it's pretty much safe. That's 48 beacons, and that doesn't include way over a stack of beacons I used for decoration in this base. If you want to see how I get all of those, stick around to see the Witherskeleton Farm making this possible. Going across the entrance of my base here is the Totem Monument, where I was celebrating 3000 days in this world. On this side it has the OG texture, and on the other side it has the texture 9.3, one of my mods made for me. And right next to it is where I have my creeper farm. Walking past those pillars of decorational shulker bullets, I end up in this research hangar where there's all kinds of science being conducted. By Robin over here and Chokila over there in the back. There's a giant creeper blowing up this place, and it's frozen in time by the Arch-Illager. You might be wondering why there's this ghast here and why it's not shooting at us, and where the actual farm is. I turned this into a minigame where creepers get levitated by getting shot by a bunch of shulkers, and then float into the box where I can shoot them with my bow. And the ghast isn't shooting at us because it has this block pushed inside its head, and only when I turn on the ghast cannon it gets pulled out and then it can shoot at us. And then the water right here redirects its bullet so I can punch it without getting hit. It also runs passively if I want to, and all the creepers just die on their own. They all spawn on the shifting floor farm here and get transported to the killing area. But those mob conveyors down there that do the transporting often break when unloading, which makes this pretty unpractical. I built a bigger and faster creeper farm over the ocean near spawn here, which is the same shifting floor concept, just with them dying to fall damage, and it's just bigger in general and is a way better supply of gunpowder. There's also the flying machines at the bottom that actually collect that gunpowder. Next I'll show you the underground part of my base. And coming down this back entrance we end up in the control room. From here, I have a bunch of farms hooked up to this one control panel where I can turn them on and off from here. And all the drops end up in the chests. So far, I can control the creeper farm, the bamboo farm, and also a spider farm. There's a spider spawner right behind here. So I don't really have access to the spider farm, but I also don't need to. I just gotta climb through all the control room's redstone right here. And this spawn is close enough to run most of the time when I'm in the control room. Right next to it here is the bulk storage. This is a shulker based storage system where I can throw in all the materials I get from digging. Over here is also a small furnace setup with 8 furnaces, just fueled by coal. We also got the cactus farm on the floor here. And all the cactus goes into the chests, and if there's an overflow, it all gets bone mealed. To the right is my enchantment setup. We got Jay Goodman here taking care of the enchants, and just this magical looking cave. Just opposite of that, there's a staircase down. There's head burglar right here. So here I have a little side room for all my mob heads and for when I need to make armor stands. So all the armor stands you see in the world are with a vanilla tweaks datapack, which I'll link in the description. It doesn't give me any gameplay advantage, I just add armor stands for decorational reasons, and it really helps bring the world more alive. So here I got all the 2 tall flower farms, and I got Leiche and Sunflower sitting up there. And I always have my corridors open-ended like this, so in the future if I need more bone meal farms or whatever I want to add, I can just extend the corridors and have more stuff added to the base as we go. That's the great part about an underground base. And this corridor over here brings me to my cleric trading hall. So with the cleric trading hall, I can always call 4 of them towards me. They then jump to where I'm at, and from here I can trade with them. And once I'm done trading, I can send them back, and they just go back to the slots they came from. Opposite of the cleric trading hall is my furnace array, and all you see here is this, where I can throw in items, and there's 128 furnaces behind it, and all the items come back up here with this trapdoor. You can see here is the item distribution, where I distribute all the items onto 4 different lanes. This is what it looks like from the back, so the items are all distributed by minecarts, and then I just did the lazy version of distributing the bamboo, which fuels them, by just using hoppers. So there's a lot of unlocked hoppers here, so just nobody tell my storage tech friends. And all the way at the back here is where the shulker boxes from the bamboo farm come in. And each of those lanes is a shulker box unloader that just picks them up if they need more bamboo to refuel. And if all of those are full, the shulker boxes just continue all the way to the control room to the bulk storage. Back up here in the main corridor, there's also a pumpkin farm behind the wall. Opposite of that is the nether portal, and I'll get back to that later. And here's my sheep farm. So I got one of each color of sheep in there. We got pink temperance in there, taking care of our sheep. And they just randomly walk around, and whenever they walk over the pressure plates, they get sheared, and there's minecarts underneath. And the opposite of that is the potion brewing setup, but I barely ever use that anymore because I got a better setup now, which you'll see later. And walking past my charged creeper pets here, we end up in my storage room. I got the bee farm in the floor here. There is 4 bees nests for a total of 12 bees. All the drops are just down there in the chest. And what I got here is just manual sorting. So I have this chest wall here, a bunch of shulkers with items I need to use for crafting quite often. And then I got this categorized shulker index. So basically here's all the stone building items, and then I can see what's in this stuff and just throw the shulker down and cycle through all the shulkers I threw down to then access them through here. And I got this for a bunch of different materials and categories, and some empty spots as well to extend in the future. Since building this, I've come up with a better design, so there's also a 1 tileable design that I have in creative, but I never bothered switching those out here, so maybe I'll do that one day for even more space and more compact layout. On the other side of the room here, I got the netherwort farm in the floor, also just for manually harvesting. I have fortune on my axe, so I can always just fortune those netherwort, and it's more than enough for a single player. And just coming around the corner here is my sugarcane farm, which is, I think, a total of 64 plants. We got Chazzy here. All the sugarcane ends up in those chests, and there's another composter in case it overflows. And out here, right in front of the base, as you can see, it's open, is where I got a bunch of frogs. So when 1.19 came out, I was really hyped for the frogs, so I just put a bunch of frogs down here. And this was an open cave before, and I just closed it off, made this pond. And over here is the bridge over the frog area that leads me back out here, and we have come out the other side of the base where the bamboo farm is. But over here, going through the nether portal, I end up in the middle of that piston bolt I showed you earlier, and from here I can jump down into the bartering farm. Since the last world tour, I added a second layer of piglins on top, and that makes for a total of 24 piglins. They get their gold from a minecart in the back, which makes for this really satisfying wave of bartering animation, going back and forth. All the useful items get channeled at the bottom and get sorted into chests. This is an example of where I really go for something that's fun to watch over something that's easy to work with. Also, to drop down in the nether and not take any fall damage, I use carpet covering powdered snow. This takes away all the fall damage and it's really neat. And since bubble elevators don't work in the nether, I always use those old school minecart elevators. But going to the other side of my base puddle, I end up at this other piston bolt, which leads to my first main tunnel of the nether hub. The nether hub here has entrances to tunnels in all cardinal directions. I've not yet expanded this tunnel network much, so most of my traveling in this world still happens on the nether roof. Going through the portal at the nether hub, we end up at spawn. Right here is the platform where I got how did we get here in this world. Everything you need for the advancement is here, like this shulker named after Huskadi. And even an Elder Guardian pet for the mining fatigue effect. But he is usually stored 50 blocks underground, so I only get mining fatigue when I step on his pressure plate and he goes all the way up. Also, last World Tour I said I didn't know what happened to the dolphins in here, and everyone said I must have killed them. I'm pretty sure it was just a lightning strike hitting this lightning rod, damaging them through the block. Not saying I'm above killing dolphins, because those are annoying, but I didn't kill those ones. So this is the place I finished all advancements in 1.18, but after 1.19 released I got the new advancements too, to once again have all advancements in Half-Hearted Hardcore. Right next to it here is the Plinko, which is like a game for channel point predictions on Twitch. This was an idea by 9.3 forever ago and I built it here. Like most of my technical stuff, I designed it here in Hardcore, but there's not too much redstone going on in the back. So there's a charge creeper at the top and on each layer it goes either left or right, until it reaches the bottom where it's also randomized if it's cyan or birch. Up on the hill behind it here is a giant Twitch logo I built in celebration of finally getting partnered on Twitch. All the supporters from the celebration stream got armor stands up top here, and everyone who came to the stream got a sign with their name around the base. Right at the edge of the spawn chunks is where I got my mob switch. This is used to disable hostile mob spawning, and I only ever used it to build the Guardian Farm, the Pillager Tinder and the Witherskeleton Farm. But I usually have it turned off because it would be boring without any hostile mobs. This right here is my gold farm. All the pigmen here get picked up by minecarts and brought to the center for me to kill. The original concept of this minecart based farm was shown by Elmanga on Psycraft, and I really liked the idea, so I just made my own version here. There's 10 minecarts per second spread across 4 lanes, and on their way to the center they get pre-damaged by suffocating inside blocks, so they're down to 1 hit. This is at the very bottom of the nether and the whole area around it is spawn-proofed with slabs, so the only spawnable spots are in the farm. And on top of that, I have removed all the bedrock above, which is about 2,900 bedrock removed. This has definitely boosted the rates by a lot, but it was a real grind. But this farm is how I get all my golden apples and powered rails I go through, and it also runs the bartering farm. To build all those projects, I go through a ton of resources, so I have a bunch of farms I never decorate. Here's my old gold farm I don't use anymore, designed by ENX04, and I just added a proper item collection to his original design. I also have this giant river-based drown farm for tridents and nautilus shells. It's not that fast, but it's good enough for those 2 items. Not really good as a copper farm though. All my slime still comes from this very early game slime farm, also by ENX04. There's this broken shulker farm I still haven't fixed since the first World Tour, designed by Dark. This skulk farm I designed myself where I can get skulk blocks on one side and all the other skulk items on the other side. And it's based on Enderman, that's why it's here in the void. There's also this very slow froglight farm at the bottom of a treasure bastion. I also have this mob farm that I used on Halloween to sort out the pumpkin head mobs. So all the creepers and spiders and witches die down here at the bottom, and then only the zombies and skeletons get up there where I can sort them out. And that's how I got all the jack-o'-lantern mobs in the mob zoo. This isn't really that fast though, so I definitely have a lot of ideas to make this better for this year's Halloween. Going about 4,000 blocks straight from my base, there's this hole in the bedrock which leads to my Witherskeleton Farm. It's in the middle of a warped forest and it is designed by a community member named Tetra. I built this farm early on in this world and it was really worth the risk. Being able to put beacons everywhere and just makes everything so much safer. They spawn on the wither roses here, get lured into drop shafts by those piglins, and then immediately get pumpkin heads dispensed if possible. This makes them not count to the mob cap and respawn new ones faster. Then they get put into the middle with this mob conveyor and that's how we kill them. It's also a very good XP farm and it supplies me with a ton of coal and bones. Everything gets loaded into shulkers and all the wither skulls and shulkers end up here, right here. The last thing I would like to show you is the mountain village. Arriving here, I climb out of the well and you will see this entire place looking alive with all those armor stands. For example, we got Dead Fox here passed out outside of the tavern. We got Dambrew making his way home. Up there, there's Swoochie looking out from the tower on Airline's house, and a ton of other stuff going on. This is next to a mountain, and from there it's getting attacked by this giant serpent. This was a really fun build, but the biggest challenge here was building the roofs for those diagonal houses. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. There's also an actual use for this place, which is hidden behind the serpent. If I land up here and put on armor, there's a secret passage leading into my potion factory. Here I can select potion ingredients and then it brews a full shulker of potions with the stuff you picked. There's a tutorial on my channel if you're interested in how this works.
At the time of finishing this video, I am now at over 5,400 days. Also, I'm sick right now, so sorry about my voice. All the farms I mentioned, mods, data packs, and shaders are linked in the description, and I want to give a special shout out to Sliced Lime for coming up with Half-Hearted Hardcore and also getting me into this challenge. All his stuff is linked in the description as well. Also, I want to say thank you to all my mods and supporters on Twitch. Without all of you guys, this would not be possible. Thank you. With the last world tour, a lot of people doubted the legitimacy of this world, so I'll say it again. Every second of this world has been streamed live, so there's definitely nothing funky going on. Thank you all very much for watching, and if you like this video, check out the video about how I got the warden into the end.